Have you ever woken up with a perfect plan, an exciting to-do list made the night before, only to find that when dawn comes, all you want to do is pull the blanket over your head and keep sleeping? You tell yourself, "I'm not in the mood today. I feel a little tired," or "I'll do it tomorrow." If the answer is yes, then you are not alone. But here is a harsh truth. Emotions are not bad, but they are not qualified to lead your life. Imagine your life as a ship drifting on a vast ocean. You are the captain, yet you allow violent waves, temporary emotions to take hold of the helm. When the sky is clear, you stay on course. But when storms rise, when boredom or fear crashes in, your ship begins to veer off its path. Have you ever felt like you are constantly working, struggling in emotional chaos, yet never truly moving forward? The truth is, like a seed buried deep in the soil, real growth happens in silence and requires persistent endurance, regardless of the weather above. Success does not come from the noise of spontaneous moments, but from the momentum you quietly build every day with iron discipline. In today's video, I will share with you the core principles that help you strip emotions of their control and put discipline back in the leading position. Together, we will decode why the brain always chooses the easiest option and how you can command yourself instead of becoming a slave to your mood. Remember this: your life only truly changes when your actions are no longer dependent on how you feel. And you should stay until the end of this video, because principle number 7 is the master key that can completely change the way you operate your life from this moment on. Principle 1, identifying the avoidance instinct. Let's start with a biological truth that few people want to admit. Your brain was not designed to lead you to glory. It was designed to keep you alive. Let me explain this mechanism clearly. From ancient times, our ancestors lived in a world full of danger. The brain's top priority was to conserve energy and avoid anything risky, painful, or difficult. If there was a warm cave and a jungle full of wild beasts, instinct would always pull you into the cave. Today, even though we no longer have to flee from predators, that old brain is still inside your skull. It perceives reading a thick book, waking up at 5 a.m. to run, or making an important sales call as threats to peace. The brain is built to avoid difficulty, not to achieve success. You see, when you face a big goal, the brain immediately sends out signals of anxiety. It tells you, "Don't do that, it's too exhausting," or "We're fine as we are, why change?" That is why procrastination has such tremendous power. It is not a flaw in your character, it is a natural defense mechanism. But here is the key point. Success is a process of going against instinct. I often say, to have what you've never had, you must do what you've never done. That means you must step out of the warm cave of comfort. If you only do what feels easy, you will stay where you are forever. If a seed is afraid of darkness and the pressure of soil, it will never sprout to meet the sunlight. It must struggle through the hard ground to rise. Humans are the same. Look at the successful people I have met throughout my career. They are not fearless, nor do they have different brains. The only difference is that they recognize the feeling of avoidance as just a temporary chemical reaction in the brain. They don't argue with instinct. They simply identify it and choose to act despite its presence. In business or personal development, if you wait until your brain feels ready and comfortable to do hard work, you will fail. The brain will never agree to the pain of discipline. You must understand this. Every time you feel strong inner resistance toward an important task, that is a sign you are standing in front of an opportunity for growth. Difficulty is the barrier separating the ordinary crowd from the exceptional few. I remember once a young man came to me and said, "Mr. Rohn, I want to succeed, but I always feel exhausted and lose interest whenever I start a new project." I looked him straight in the eye and said, "That's because you're letting your survival instinct lead your life. You're treating your dreams like a threat instead of a privilege. You don't need to change your brain structure. You only need to change how you respond to its signals." Remember this metaphor. The brain is like an overprotective but timid guard. Its job is to keep you safe inside a narrow comfort zone. But your job as the leader of your life is to take that guard by the hand and lead him into the light, where great challenges and great rewards await. Never confuse safety with progress. Safety is the golden cage that restrains your talent. When you recognize that feeling difficult is merely a signal of growth, you will no longer fear it. You will welcome it as a necessary companion on the journey to higher ground. After many years of ups and downs, I realized this. My biggest mistake in youth was always looking for an easier path, a shortcut without thorns. In reality, a path without difficulty leads nowhere. Life rewards those who dare to face discomfort with a brilliant future. So the next time you are about to quit something because it is too hard, smile and say to yourself, this is my brain trying to protect me. But sorry, today I don't need protection, I need growth. And that is only the beginning of awakening. The next principle will make you reflect on how you have unknowingly let lazy emotions lead you into a dead end. Principle 2, beware of the path of least resistance. If the first principle helps you understand the biology of fear, the second exposes a truth about the nature of emotions. Emotions always choose the easiest option. In personal development, I often compare emotions to water. Have you ever watched water flow down a mountainside? It never chooses the hardest route uphill. It always looks for cracks, soft ground, and downward paths to flow through. It always chooses the path of least resistance. Human emotions work exactly the same way. When you are faced with a choice between picking up a book to study or grabbing the TV remote to relax, your emotions will never vote for the book. They will whisper about the comfort of the soft couch. Remember this, your emotions are short-term pleasure seekers. They do not care about your life 5 or 10 years from now. They only care about immediate satisfaction. If you let emotions make decisions, you will always find yourself following the easy path, the road to mediocrity. There is a saying I deeply value: a ship without a rudder always drifts downstream, where the water is calm, but that is also where it rots. I remember the early days of my journey to change my life under Mr. Schoaf's guidance. He asked me, "Jim, why aren't you rich?" I listed a long set of reasons: the economy, high taxes, the government, even the weather. He looked at me and said, "No, the real reason is that you always choose what is easy instead of what is necessary." That was when I realized I had become a slave to my own lazy emotions. Sleeping 15 more minutes felt easier than waking up to read a chapter. Hanging out with people in the same situation felt more comfortable than meeting successful people who made me feel small. The truth is, easy things are also easy not to do. It is easy not to exercise, easy not to set goals, easy not to discipline yourself, and because it is easy, most people choose it. But you pay an extremely high price for that ease, a life full of regret. Look at real-life examples around you. Why do most people spend everything they earn instead of saving and investing? Because spending gives immediate pleasure. It is the easy path. Why do people complain about circumstances instead of upgrading their skills? Because blaming is easier than taking responsibility. Your emotions will always protect you from the pain of effort, but at the same time, they block you from reaching the glory of achievement. I want you to see emotions as an unreliable guide. If you were lost in a forest and asked this guide which way to go, he would always point to the flattest path, even if it led straight into a cliff. Discipline and reason, on the other hand, point to the steep, rugged path that leads to the mountain peak, where you can see your entire life clearly. I discovered a painful law. If you do easy things, your life will be hard. But if you dare to do hard things, your life will become easy. Do not let temporary emotions deceive you with easy paths. Every time you feel pulled by laziness, stop and ask yourself, does this path lead me to success, or does it only make me feel good right now? True success requires you to build a filter for your emotions. You must learn to say no to the selfish demands of emotion in order to say yes to the long-term values of discipline. Do not expect life to get easier. Expect yourself to get stronger. But be careful, because the soft voice inside you never quits openly. It is extremely cunning. It will not tell you to be lazy. It will give you very reasonable excuses to delay. We will uncover that cunning nature in the next principle, where excuses begin wearing the mask of logic. Principle 3, unmasking the soft voice. On the journey to higher ground, the greatest enemy is not outside, not competitors or a weak economy. The most dangerous enemy is inside your mind, hiding in a very subtle form that I call the soft voice. What makes this voice so dangerous is that it never bluntly shouts, "I want to be lazy." Instead, it is incredibly sly and disguises itself as perfectly reasonable logic. Have you ever planned to wake up early to exercise only to hear a voice say, "I need a little more sleep so I'll have energy to work better later, otherwise I'll be exhausted"? That is the soft voice wearing the mask of self-care. Or when you plan to start an important project and it whispers, "This isn't the perfect time yet. I should research a bit more to avoid mistakes." That is the mask of being cautious. In reality, these are sugar-coated excuses. If you listen to them every day, your discipline will slowly dissolve like mist under sunlight. Discipline does not die suddenly. It is eroded by the compromises we make with those reasonable excuses. I made the same mistake in my early entrepreneur years. I often told myself I deserved rest after a hard week. But in truth, I was avoiding difficult tasks I was afraid to face. I had to learn to see through the mask and realize this. No matter how logical an excuse sounds, if it leads you to stagnation, it is still a lie. Imagine if you were running a business and your employees constantly gave reasonable excuses for missing targets. Would you keep them? Of course not. So why do you allow the emotional employee inside you to do that to your life? You must become a strict judge of your own thoughts. Whenever an excuse appears to stop you from acting, ask, is this objective truth or just my emotions looking for the easiest escape? The difference between a successful person and a failure sometimes lies only in how they deal with this voice. Successful people hear it, but they unmask it immediately. They understand that emotions are signals, not supreme commands they must obey. When you learn to distinguish between real needs and emotional excuses, you hold the key to freedom. I learned that every big change starts with a very small awakening, realizing that you are not your emotions. You are the observer of them, and more importantly, the one with the authority to command them. Do not let your life drift off course because you trusted a weak whisper inside. Life charges a heavy price to those who refuse to think, paid with an empty future. If you do not change how you talk to yourself today, what do you think your life will look like in 5 years? Start practicing unmasking in the smallest things. When emotions say rest, respond with disciplined action. And remember, the power of this principle only fully works when you understand what I am about to share next. Because once you identify the soft voice, you must know how to treat it as a signal rather than an order. Principle 4. Emotions are signals, not commands. To go further on the path to success, you must understand what is really happening inside your mind. One of the biggest human mistakes is identifying yourself with your emotions. When you feel discouraged, you say, "I am discouraged." When you feel afraid, you say, "I am afraid." But the truth is, you are not fear, and you are not discouragement. You are the one experiencing those feelings. In my philosophy, I always emphasize this. Emotions are signals, not commands. Imagine your brain as the dashboard of a car. When the fuel light flashes, it signals that the tank is low. That signal is extremely useful. It tells you something needs attention. But the fuel light never grabs the steering wheel and forces you off a cliff. It only provides information. Where the car goes is up to you, the driver. Your emotions work the same way. Anxiety before a presentation is a signal that you are facing an important opportunity and need better preparation. Fatigue after a long day is a signal that your body needs recovery, not a command to abandon reading or planning tomorrow. If you treat emotions as commands, you become their slave. If you treat them as signals, you become the master. I once knew a young businessman with great ideas who always acted on inspiration. When he felt excited, he worked 15 hours a day. But when he felt pressure or doubt, he immediately stopped and said he was not in the mood. I told him, "You're letting the dashboard lights drive your car." A red light doesn't tell you to stop living. It tells you to check the engine. A mature person can step back from emotions and observe them. Instead of instantly obeying what emotions demand, learn to ask, what is this signal trying to tell me? Are you afraid because you lack preparation? Or lazy because you lack a goal big enough to inspire you? Success is not about killing emotions or becoming a machine. Success is about listening to signals while keeping your hand firmly on the wheel of discipline. I learned that every major change begins with a small awakening. The moment you realize you can choose how to respond to your emotions. Remember this image. Emotions are like weather. It can rain, it can shine, it can storm. You cannot control the weather, but you can control whether you step outside and do your work. Do not let a brief storm of discouragement stop you from building the castle of your life. After decades of reflection, I realized this. Life richly rewards those who use reason to guide emotion rather than emotion to erode reason. If you have ever felt trapped in emotional chaos, remember that the next principle is the key to complete self-mastery. Principle 5. the power of commanding yourself. Once we understand emotions as dashboard signals, the most important question becomes, who is really driving? In this fifth principle, we enter a concept that defines successful people, the ability to self-lead. My philosophy is simple. A mature person knows how to command themselves. Look at how a child operates. If they like something, they laugh. If they are uncomfortable, they cry. If they do not want to eat, they knock over the bowl. A child is completely ruled by momentary emotions. But maturity is not measured by age. It is measured by the distance between emotion and action. A truly mature man or woman can say, I know you're tired, I know you're discouraged, but we have a commitment to fulfill and we're doing it now. Success is not an accident. It is the result of becoming the captain of your own soul. If you do not command yourself, the world, or worse, your lower emotions will command you. You must establish an internal hierarchy where willpower and ultimate goals are at the top, and emotions are merely subordinates. A good leader never lets employees decide the company's strategy. So why let laziness or fear decide your destiny? Early in my career, I made the mistake of waiting for permission from my mood. I told myself, when I feel energized, I'll write this speech. But that energy often never arrived on time. I learned this. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you least want to do it. When I started commanding myself to sit down and work regardless of how I felt, that was when I truly began to take control of my life. I realized that every time you command yourself and follow through, you build something called self-respect through discipline. Every victory over procrastination lays another solid brick in the foundation of confidence. Every time you give in to emotion, you tell your subconscious, I am unreliable. How much time do you spend each day strengthening your mind instead of serving emotional demands? Are you working toward a great goal or just reacting to mood swings? Never underestimate the power of self-talk. Learn to say no to selfish emotional demands so you can say yes to the long-term values of discipline. Success is not something you chase with inspiration. It is something you attract by the person you become through self-training. When you stop blaming circumstances or moods and start taking responsibility, everything around you changes. Life rewards those who master themselves with a solid and brilliant future. And this is only the beginning of mastery, because after learning to command yourself, you face a greater challenge: persistence when inspiration disappears. The next principle will show you why waiting for inspiration is the most subtle trap of failure. Principle 6, don't wait for inspiration to start. There is a dangerous illusion that most people fall into when chasing goals, believing they need inspiration or motivation to begin. They sit and wait for a lightning bolt from the sky, for a surge of excitement before writing the first chapter of a book or making the first sales call. But the harsh truth is this: if you wait for emotion to agree, you will wait forever. Inspiration is like weather, it comes and goes without notice. If you only work on sunny days, you will never build a castle. Success is not spontaneous. It is the result of consistent work, regardless of how you feel. I often tell my students, don't wish the work were easier. Wish you were better. And the way to get better is to start even when you feel no inspiration at all. Look at a farmer. He cannot wait until he feels like planting seeds. He plants because the season demands it. If he waits for emotion, the season passes and winter comes with an empty stomach. Life is the same. Great opportunities do not wait for your mood to stabilize. They come to those already in position, whether tired or excited. I remember my early speaking career, waking up in unfamiliar cities, exhausted from long flights, with every emotion telling me to cancel and rest. But I learned a powerful lesson. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. When I stepped on stage and spoke the first words, passion ignited. If I had waited for that fire first, I would never have left the bed. How long has it been since you did something truly challenging just because you felt not ready? The best preparation for action is action itself. Once you start, the brain shifts into focus and emotions follow the rhythm of work. Amateurs wait for inspiration. Professionals get up and work. Do not let tomorrow be stolen by today's procrastination. Act now, even if it is the smallest step. I realize that success is not accidental. It is a chain of correct decisions repeated daily, despite emotional resistance. I once made the mistake of believing I needed a perfect idea before starting a business. But no perfect ideas emerge only after you step into the mud of reality. Life rewards those who walk through uncertainty with the bright light of achievement. If these lessons resonate with you, hit subscribe to continue the journey with me at Jim Rohn Treasures, where we explore principles that help you move forward every day. Principle 7. Discipline is the anchor in the storm. We have traveled a long path to understand the cunning nature of emotions, but this is the most important part, the soul of this entire message. If you remember only one thing, remember this. When emotions disappear, discipline must remain. Imagine steering a ship across the ocean. When the weather is calm, staying on course is easy. But life is not always sunny. There will be thick fog, violent waves of doubt, fatigue, and disappointment. In those moments, emotions will scream, "Turn back, stop, it's pointless." Without a solid anchor, your ship will be smashed against the rocks of failure. That anchor is discipline. Discipline is not a chain that limits freedom. Discipline is the highest form of freedom. Why? Because a person without discipline has no choice. They must obey whatever emotion arises. A disciplined person can rise above mood swings and keep promises to themselves. I learned this. Success is not built by extraordinary effort in one day, but by small disciplines practiced daily. I have known many talented people with world-changing ideas who vanished into obscurity because they lacked the anchor of discipline. They worked when inspired and quit when it became hard. They burned brightly for a moment and went out with the first wind. Principle 7 is the key because it changes your position. With discipline, you are no longer a victim of circumstance or mood. You become independent. No matter if the world turns its back on you, if you face personal pain, or simply feel exhausted, discipline takes your hand and says, "Get up, we have work to do." I have been through the darkest phases of my career when every emotion told me to quit. But small, disciplined habits, waking up on time, journaling, reading daily, kept me from sinking into despair. Discipline maintains momentum even when the destination is unclear. I realize this profound truth. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret is permanent. Will you choose the pain of discipline today or the pain of regret tomorrow? Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. If you have ever felt stuck, this principle is your key. Do not wait for the storm to pass to build discipline. Build your anchor now in small things, so when the storm hits, you can stand firm and smile at the waves. Are you ready to strip emotions of control and let your actions become completely independent? The final principle will show you how to make all of this sustainable, so your life never drifts off course again. Principle 8. Life changes when action is no longer dependent on mood. We have reached the final stretch, where philosophy becomes real results. You can understand the brain, identify the soft voice, and know discipline is the anchor, but it all means nothing if you do not reach this state. Action independent of mood. Look at the difference between a professional and an amateur. Amateurs work when they feel like it. Professionals work because the work must be done. Your life will never change through bursts of enthusiasm. It changes when you take correct actions even at your lowest emotional point. That is the line between mastering destiny and being mastered by it. Over decades of speaking, I have met thousands who wanted change. They said, "I'll start when I feel confident, or I'll act when fear disappears." I always replied, "Don't wait for confidence to act. Act, and confidence will follow." When you separate action from emotion, you free yourself from psychological captivity. Apply this to small things. If you decide to wake up at 6 a.m. to read, when the alarm rings, do not ask, "Do I feel good?" or "Do I want to?" Those questions are poison. Your job is to move your feet out of bed. Physical action must come before mental debate. When you do that, you send a powerful message to your subconscious. I am the master and emotions are the servants. I learned that every great change begins with a small awakening, realizing you do not need to feel good to do good. In fact, the fastest way to change negative emotions is to take positive action. If you feel bored, clean your desk. If you feel anxious, start writing a plan. Do not sit and hope your mood improves. Emotions are greedy monsters. Give them attention and they consume your time. Ignore them and focus on work, and they retreat. After decades, I realized this. The difference between earning $50,000 and $500,000 a year is not IQ or luck. It is how many times someone acts when emotions tell them to stop. Will you work only for money or build lasting mental and material wealth by mastering yourself? Life does not pay for what you know. It pays for what you do. And it pays the most for what you do when you least want to do it. At the end of the day, can you honestly tell the mirror you move closer to your goals? The answer lies in whether you let emotions steer. We have walked through 8 steel principles to reclaim control of life from emotions. Remember this image. Emotions are clouds. Your goals are stars. Clouds may block the stars for a moment, but the stars remain unshaken and eternal. Do not let the fog of laziness or boredom convince you the stars are gone. Let me ask you sincerely, what are you letting emotions decide for you today? Is there a call you have not made? A book gathering dust? A business project waiting for inspiration? Do not let tomorrow be stolen by today's delay. Start now. As soon as this video ends, write in the comments one thing you commit to completing immediately, regardless of how you feel. Let that action mark the birth of a new person, disciplined and self-directed. If you find these values useful, hit like and share with those struggling with their own emotions. Don't forget to subscribe to Jim Rohn Treasures so we can continue exploring these timeless principles together every day. I truly appreciate that you stayed until the final seconds. That shows you are serious about your future. As I often say, success is not a destination, it is the journey you persist in every day. You and I share one gift today. Use it wisely. Do not let emotion steer. Let discipline lead. Goodbye, and I'll see you again at the peak of success.